The sound had started 3 days ago. A light scratching faint, but persistent, always just beyond the edge of hearing. Nathan Parker had tried to ignore it. He was 6 months into his 1-year security contract aboard orbital station Helios. And if there was one thing he'd learned, it was that space had no shortage of irritating background noise. Between the hum of life support systems, the hiss of pressurized doors, and the creaks of aging metal expanding and contracting, there was always something to blame. But this wasn't just noise. It was rhythmic, purposeful, like something alive. Fucking Vexlings, Nathan muttered, squatting beside a utility panel in storage section 7. He brushed sweat from his brow, his other hand resting on the matte gray multi-tool clipped to his belt. The corridor was dim, lit only by flickering overhead fluorescence that gave the whole place a forgotten, post-apocalyptic vibe. His shadow loomed long against the walls, shifting as he moved. He adjusted his jumpsuit, the reinforced plating, along his chest and shoulders, catching the cold light. The blue sensor embedded in his armor pulsed steadily, a heartbeat of synthetic order in the station's chaotic silence. Vexlings, that was the Cree term. Bioluminescent rodent-like creatures that had a nasty habit of burrowing into insulation foam and power couplings. The Cree engineers insisted they were sacred, microsentient biorecyclers, or some crap like that, but to Nathan, they were just rats with too many legs and glowing eyes. Earth had rodents. The galaxy had Vexlings. Same headache, different shape. He tapped the wall, listening for hollow resonance. The scratching came again closer this time. He could feel it in his teeth. "Maintenance override," he said aloud, pitching his voice clear and firm. "Parker, Nathan J. Security Clearance Theta 7. A soft beep answered him as the access panel's lock flashed green. Nathan slid this panel open with a grunt, bracing himself for a flurry of tiny feet, a blast of musky air, and a sudden need to chase some glowing pest with a stun baton. But there was no scurry. No odor. No Vexlings. Instead, he froze inside the cramped maintenance shaft, barely large enough to sit in, or 2 figures. A woman with smooth green skin that shimmered faintly in the low light, and silver-white hair that fell over one shoulder like strands of moonlight. Her arms were wrapped protectively around a small child, who blinked up at him with wide, shimmering gray eyes. Nathan's breath caught in his throat. His hand instinctively dropped to the stunner on his hip. The woman didn't move. She didn't reach for a weapon. She didn't speak. Her eyes, luminous and liquid, begged without words. The child trembled, curling tighter into her mother's side. Nathan swallowed hard. "This is Security Officer Parker. I need to see identification and transit papers immediately." The woman's lips parted, and when she spoke, her voice was like soft wind chimes, melodic even in its desperation. "Please, don't report us." "Protocol," screamed in his head. Unauthorized passengers were to be detained. The Cree Confederacy had 0 tolerance for stowaways. Anyone without clearance was to be handed over. No exceptions. That was the rule, but as Nathan stared into the girl's eyes, he didn't see a threat. He saw fear, hunger, exhaustion. He lowered his hand from the stunner. "You're stowaways," he said, voice low. "Do you have any idea how much trouble you're in? How much trouble I'll be in if I don't report this?" The woman's grip on her daughter tightened. "We had no choice," she said, barely above a whisper. "We're refugees from Terrales. The Dominion took our world." Nathan blinked. Terrales. He'd read the reports. Another green world crushed under Dominion boots. Forced loyalty or annihilation. Refugees from that sector were rare and hunted. "They killed my husband," she continued. "He was a scientist. Refused to serve them. They would have taken Elu for for reconditioning." Nathan's gaze flicked to the girl again. Elu. Her name was Elu. She couldn't be more than 6. Fragile. Quiet. Not even crying. Just ... Watching him. Like he held the power to erase her world with one word. And maybe he did. Shit, he muttered, rubbing a hand down his face. He glanced over his shoulder. The corridor was empty. Quiet, no witnesses. No cameras. He looked back. At them. At her. The woman Lana held his gaze. I should report this, he said, almost to himself. But you won't, she replied softly. And he knew she was right. He exhaled, shoulders sagging. You can't stay here, he said. This section gets maintenance checks. Hope bloomed in her eyes. Not triumph. Just ... hope. Quiet and trembling and unbearably human. Nathan sighed. I'll figure something out. The tiniest sound came from Elu, a breath of relief. And for the first time in what felt like years, Nathan felt something shift deep in his chest. He had opened the hatch looking for rats. Instead, he'd found their mother, a child, and the first crack in the armor he'd built around his heart. Asterisk. Storage room in Section 12 wasn't meant for living things. 10 by 12 meters of exposed metal. It was cold, utilitarian, nothing more than a forgotten corner of Helios, earmarked for renovation next month. But for Lana and her daughter, it was a sanctuary. For now, Nathan had moved fast. Faster than was wise. A few security overrides, an old maintenance clearance that still worked, and a quiet trip to requisitions for emergency rations and sleeping mats. He hadn't stopped to ask himself why he was doing this. He'd only seen Elu's face, Lana's eyes, and something had ignited inside him, something he hadn't felt since before the Marines, before his last posting, before space had hollowed him out. He crouched near the door, tapping the biometric pad to ensure it was locked and off-grid. His breath fogged faintly in the cooler air, and he glanced over his shoulder at the 2 figures huddled in the corner. Lana was kneeling beside Elu, helping the girl unfold one of the thermal blankets he'd brought. She handled it gently, almost reverently, like it was silk instead of cheap station issue. It's not much, Nathan said, standing. But it's better than a maintenance shaft. Lana turned to him. It's more than enough. She looked around with real gratitude, like this steel box was a palace. Nathan watched as she tucked the blanket around her daughter. You've done this before. Hiding, I mean. Too many times, she said, smoothing Elu's silver hair behind a pointed ear. Cargo bays, maintenance tunnels, fuel compartments. We stay until someone notices. Then we move on. We almost didn't make it this time. Nathan crossed his arms. How'd you get aboard Helios? Supply freighter. We hid in a shipment crate, labeled as replacement environmental filters. One of the loaders looked the other way. He was Cree, but kind. And the Dominion? Nathan asked. Still hunting? Lana nodded. Always. He sat down on a crate, scrubbing a hand across his jaw. You said you were refugees, from Terrales. But you also said your husband was a scientist. She hesitated. Elu was busy unwrapping a nutrient bar, occupied. Lana moved closer, lowering her voice. My husband, Sarin, worked for the Terralian Ministry of Defense. Before the invasion, he was leading research into stealth cloaking, something even the Dominion couldn't track. He believed in defense, not aggression. But when they came, they gave him a choice. Work for them, or die. Nathan's jaw tightened, and he chose death. Yes, but before they executed him, he encoded his research, transferred it onto a secure drive, and gave it to me. Nathan's eyes narrowed. You still have it? She reached into a slim pouch sewn into her tank top and pulled out a silver medallion plane, but with a small blinking light on its surface. It's encrypted. Biolock to me. If I die, The drive self-erases. Jesus, Nathan muttered, staring at it. You're carrying tech the Dominion would kill a dozen people to recover. Lana tucked it away again, her expression unreadable. They already have. He leaned back against the crate, suddenly very aware of how deep this ran. This wasn't just a humanitarian risk anymore. This was treason-level territory. Harboring fugitives was bad enough. Smuggling military intel was something else entirely. He should report her. He had to. But he looked at Elu, small hands clutching a nutrient bar as if it were treasure. He looked at Lana, her body exhausted, her voice steady despite the horror she'd lived through. And the decision was already made. I'll bring more supplies tomorrow, he said. This place isn't scanned often, but you'll need to stay quiet. If anyone catches you, if they even suspect, you're both dead. Or worse. Lana rose, stepping close enough that he could smell her something floral, faint, and alien. Like wildflowers after a storm. You've already risked so much, she said. Why? Nathan looked at her for a long moment. Because I've seen what the Dominion does, he said finally. And I've seen what happens when good people look the other way. She studied him, her gray eyes softening. You're not like the others. I'm not sure that's a compliment, he muttered. She smiled. It is. He hesitated, then added, I don't know what happens next, but I'll figure something out. Get that data off the station. Get you off the station. Lana's hand touched his forearm light, brief, but enough to make his pulse jump. We'll follow your lead, Nathan. He turned, reaching for the door. Lock it after me. No noise. No lights after midnight. If anyone comes knocking, you never existed. I understand, Lana said, already guiding Elu to one of the mats. Nathan stepped out into the corridor, pulling the panels shut behind him. As the locks hissed into place, he leaned against the wall, heart racing, head spinning. This wasn't just about hiding refugees anymore. This was a war. And somehow, he'd just picked a side, asterisk. The artificial night cycle had set in aboard Helios, dimming the station's corridors with soft violet lights designed to simulate twilight. Most of the crew had gone to their quarters, but Nathan remained awake, standing alone by a viewport. On deck C, through the reinforced glass, the stars shimmered in endless silence, cold, distant, unreachable. A perfect metaphor for how he used to feel before her. He hadn't intended to return that evening. He told himself he was just checking patrol routes. But his boots led him back to Section 12, like a compass locked onto a singular point. There was a stillness inside him now, a tension that refused to ease no matter how tightly. He clenched his fists. The door to the storage room hissed open at his coded knock, and Lana appeared almost immediately. Her silver hair fell loose around her shoulders, glinting softly in the pale emergency light. She wore a loose thermal top he'd brought the day before, sleeves rolled up to her elbows. Her skin, pale green and faintly luminescent, looked softer. In the dim light, fragile, almost ethereal. You came back? She said quietly. He nodded, stepping inside. I brought more rations, water tablets, and something else. Elu peeked out from behind one of the crates, her gray eyes lighting up at the sight of him. She ran to him, throwing her arms around his leg in a spontaneous hug. Mr. Nathan. He chuckled, tousling her silver hair. Hey, kiddo. Brought you something. From his pack, he pulled out a small entertainment module, an old portable device loaded with educational games, translated fairy tales, and human nursery rhymes. Nothing fancy, but to a child who had nothing, it might as well have been magic. Elu gasped, gently taking it from his hands. For me? All yours? She ran back to her mat, already poking at the screen with wide-eyed wonder. Her laughter, a soft, airy sound like wind over chimes filled the small room. Nathan exhaled slowly. I've never seen her smile like that, Lana said behind him. Nathan turned. She stood closer than before, her expression unreadable. A silent current pulsed between them, unspoken, but thick in the air. She deserves to smile, he said. After everything? Lana's gaze lowered. You've risked much for strangers. You're not strangers anymore. That made her look up. Her eyes shimmered, not with tears, but something deeper. Recognition. Gratitude. A warmth that spread like sunlight after a storm. Nathan cleared his throat. I need to know more about the data, about what your husband left behind. Lana glanced at Elu, who was now deeply engrossed in a game involving Earth animals. She stepped closer, voice hushed. The stealth systems he designed. They weren't just about hiding ships. They warped sensor profiles, rendered ships invisible not just to radar, but to Dominion thought scanners, cognitive nets. I couldn't detect them. It's why the Dominion killed him. And now you have it, Nathan said. Lana nodded. Encoded, fragmented, but complete. He stared at her. If Earth gets that tech, it could change the balance of power. That's why I came to Helios, she whispered. He believed humanity, your kind, was the only species still uncorrupted enough to use it for defense, not conquest. Nathan said nothing, but her words struck deep. Suddenly, Lana reached out just a touch to his wrist. But his heart stuttered. Her skin was cool and velvety, and her touch sent a subtle tingle racing up his arm. There's something else, she said. Something you should know. He looked at her, unsure. My people were biologically different. When we share closeness, intimacy, it's not just physical. We form bonds, biochemical links, traces that linger. I can feel your emotions now, faintly. And you might start feeling mine. Nathan blinked. You mean we're connected? Only faintly for now, she said, her voice almost apologetic. But it will grow. That's what Turalian bonding does. He took a step back, breath catching. You mean last night, when she nodded. Nathan stared at her, the implications flooding his mind. You knew, he said. I didn't plan it, she whispered, but it happened. I didn't want to lie to you. A long silence fell between them. He looked at her again, really looked, and saw the fear behind her calm, the trust behind her words. She hadn't manipulated him. She had chosen him. Just as he'd chosen to stay. I should be angry, he murmured. I should feel used. But you don't, she said gently. And he didn't. If anything, he felt alive. A strange warmth coiled in his chest. Not lust, not confusion. Something deeper. Purpose. Belonging. I'll find a way to get you and Elu off this station, he said firmly. And I'll get that data to Earth Command, without revealing you. Lana exhaled with relief, stepping closer. He felt her presence like gravity. You've given us hope, she said. He hesitated, and then her lips brushed his. Cheek soft, warm, lingering for just a heartbeat. His pulse roared in his ears. For luck, she whispered. Nathan left the room with his heart pounding and his path clear. What began as a simple noise behind a panel had become something else entirely. A mission, a bond, a future. Asterisk the next morning. Began with a lie. Nathan stood in the security command center, posture straight, jaw tight, hands clasped behind his back. The holo-display flickered with shifting schematics of Helios, station vitals glowing in soft blues and greens. To anyone else, he looked calm, alert, focused. Inside, he was panicking. Chief Security Officer Thiex, a tall, scaled Cree male with angular features and a voice like gravel on steel, loomed over the central console. His long fingers moved with elegant precision as he navigated surveillance logs, Without looking up, he spoke. "Officer Parker, a moment of your time." Nathan's stomach sank. "Yes, sir," he said, stepping forward. "There's been an anomaly," the X said, gesturing to the display. "Multiple entries into storage section 12. All accessed using your credentials." Nathan kept his face blank. "That's correct, sir." Theex's vertical pupils narrowed. "Explain." "I received a verbal report from maintenance about potential vexling activity," Nathan lied, keeping his tone casual. "Didn't want to log a formal incident until I confirmed it. Thought it was just another nuisance infestation." "There are no such reports filed," Thex said slowly. "Could have been off the books. I figured it was better to check first than create a false alarm." Thex studied him. For a long, terrible moment, neither of them spoke. The station's background hum filled the silence like a heartbeat. "The inspection team arrives tomorrow." The Cree finally said, "All sections must be documented. I suggest you file the proper reports before then." "Yes, sir. I'll take care of it immediately." Dismissed, Nathan walked calmly out of the command center. Only when he was 2 corridors away did he let himself exhale. They were out of time dot by the time he reached Maintenance Junction 47. Krell was already waiting. The Ardenian security officer's 4 arms were crossed in a posture that radiated concern. His deep gray skin rippled faintly in agitation. "We have a problem," Krell said without preamble. "You mean, besides the Dominion hunting my friends and my clearance being flagged?" "Worse," Krell said, handing Nathan a datapad. "The inspection team is arriving today, early, and they're coming aboard the Relentless." Nathan's blood ran cold. "The Dominion sent a warship?" "They're calling it a diplomatic vessel." Krell's facial tendrils writhed. "Led by Commander Gravok. Notorious for security sweeps. You know what that means. Abductions. Disappearances." "Exactly." Nathan clenched his fists. "We were supposed to have 2 more days. The ECS Horizon was delayed. Navigation system failure. That was your window to get the data off station, wasn't it?" Nathan nodded grimly. Krell tapped the screen. "There's a Terran merchant vessel arriving in 6 hours. The Artemis. It's not military, but its captain owes me a favor. I've already arranged a backup plan if you can get to the ship. In time. They'll take Lana and Elu, if you ask. But if the Dominion figures out what they're carrying, even the Artemis won't be safe." Nathan's thoughts raced. "We need to get them off Helios tonight." "I've looped surveillance in the lower levels," Krell said. "It won't hold forever. And once the Dominion completes integration with the security grid, they'll see everything," Nathan finished. "How long?" 2 hours. Maybe less. Krell reached into his vest and handed Nathan a small black disk. "Emergency transponder. Military encryption. If you reach Docking Bay 7, there'll be a malfunctioning maintenance pod. Life support capable. Enough fuel to rendezvous with Artemis. But you'll need a distraction." Nathan looked up. "Can you create one?" Krell's face curled into something like a grin. "Environmental systems are running diagnostics in Sector 4. A little nudge will trigger an emergency lockdown. Loud, messy, plenty of confusion." Nathan checked his chronometer. "Trigger it in 90 minutes. That's when we'll be moving." Krell placed one of his hands on Nathan's shoulder. "You understand what this means?" Nathan nodded. Doppelquote's desertion. "Treason. You'll never be allowed back." Nathan looked away. "I know. You're doing this anyway? They're my family." "Now?" Krell said nothing for a moment. Then, "You humans. Always rewriting your priorities." He tapped his cum badge. "I'll monitor Dominion movement. 90 minutes. Don't be late." Nathan took the longest route back to Section 12, avoiding surveillance points and security patrols. Every corner felt heavier than usual, the shadows deeper, the lights harsher. When he finally reached the storage room, Lana opened the door instantly. As if she'd felt him coming, Elu ran to him, wide-eyed. "Mr. Nathan, you came back early." He knelt, hugging her tightly. "Change of plans, kiddo. We're playing the big hiding game now." Lana stepped closer, sensing the shift in his energy. "What's happened?" "The Dominion arrived early. The Relentless is in orbit. They're integrating into the station systems. Your location. Everything I've done, it's at risk of being exposed." Lana's skin paled slightly, her hands shaking. "We're out of time." Nathan nodded. "There's a pod waiting in docking bay 7. Krell arranged it. We have one shot." She looked down at Elu, then back at him. "And you?" "I'm coming. With you." For a moment, everything fell still. Then she stepped forward and pressed her forehead to his. A gesture of her people. An intimate vow. "My people say that when paths cross in darkness, the light that follows shines twice as bright." Nathan's voice was soft. "On Earth, we just say, worth the risk." Elu tugged at his sleeve. "Mr. Nathan, are you going to be my new daddy?" Nathan looked at Lana. Her breath caught, but she didn't speak. "I'd be honored," he whispered, kneeling beside the girl. "But first, we have to win this game." "Okay," she said with a brave nod. "I'm the best at hiding." Nathan rose, voice hardening with purpose. "Then let's move." Whatever the cost, whatever the fallout, he had made his choice, and there was no turning back now. The station pulsed with tension. Alarms hadn't sounded yet, but Nathan could feel the coming storm in every vibrating bulkhead, every clipped voice-over comms, every unusually tight patrol rotation. The Dominion didn't just arrive, they coiled, quiet, suffocating, waiting to strike. The corridor outside, Section 12, was empty when they emerged, but Nathan knew it wouldn't stay that way for long. He moved quickly, checking each junction before waving Lana and Elu forward. "Stay close, no talking. When I stop, you stop," he whispered. "El," you nodded solemnly, clutching her mother's hand. Lana's other hand brushed the pouch strapped under her shirt, the data drive secure, encrypted and priceless. They moved through the maintenance tunnels like ghosts. Krell's surveillance loop was holding for now, but they couldn't rely on it for more than another hour. Nathan had memorized every blind spot, every path not tracked by Helios internal scanners. His mind ticked through routes, contingencies, fallback plans. "Elevators up ahead," he said, stopping near a grated access door. "One level down, then we take the emergency lift to docking bay 7. If we time it right, we hit the pod just as the diversion goes live." He glanced at his chronometer. 9 minutes. Lana's breath was quiet beside him, but Nathan could feel her anxiety through the strange, subtle bond that had formed between them. Not fear resolve. She wasn't weak. She had crossed half a galaxy with her daughter, carrying tech that could reshape the war. She was steel under silk. The lift opened with a soft ding. Too loud. Everything felt too loud. They stepped inside. Nathan punched in the manual override. The lift groaned and began to descend. Then the lights flickered. He froze. No sound. No alarms. Just a momentary lapse in power, like the station itself had hesitated. "Did you feel that?" Lana asked softly. He nodded. "They're integrating. The Dominion's syncing with Helios systems. Once they reach security core access, Krell's loop will fall apart." As if summoned by his thoughts, a faint click came through his earpiece. "Krell. Diversion begins in 5, the Ardenian's voice said. "They're moving toward the core. Your path is still clear, but not for long. Move like hell, Parker." The lift doors opened. Nathan stepped out first, scanning. The corridor ahead was dim and empty. Exposed cables curled along the ceiling. A sign reading emergency service access. Bay 7 hung half loose above the hatch. "This way," he hissed. Ran silent but swift, Lana lifting Elu effortlessly when she stumbled. They reached the final bend just as the alarm blared. A deafening whoop echoed through the metal corridors, followed by flashing red strobes. Environmental failure detected. Sector 4. Emergency response teams. Report immediately. The walls shook with the force of pressure locks, disengaging far away. Nathan grinned through his breathless tension. "That's our signal." They reached the docking hatch. A small maintenance pod, barely larger than a personnel capsule, sat prepped and waiting, its access light glowing green. Just as Krell had promised. "In you go," Nathan said, helping Elu through the narrow hatch. She clambered into one of the 2 padded seats, eyes wide with a mix of wonder and fear. Lana followed, squeezing into the tight space and pulling her daughter into her lap. Nathan climbed in last, sealing the hatch behind him. The pod was cramped, no space for hesitation. He activated the controls. The hum of power cells charging was a small reassurance. He slid into the pilot cradle, tapping commands into the console. A shrill voice crackled through the station's comms. "Unauthorized launch detected in docking bay 7. Halt all non-essential movement." "Repeat, halt all." Nathan ignored it. Clamps released with a hard clunk. The pod vibrated as thrusters flared to life. Then they were moving. The stars outside turned as the pod twisted free from Helios, rotating to align with its exit corridor. Nathan's hands gripped the manual controls, sweat slicking his palms. It wasn't built for piloting. It was meant for crawling repairs on the station's hull. "Engaging boosters," he murmured. "Hold on." The pod lurched forward. Elu squealed in surprise, but clung tightly to her mother. Lana held her with one hand, the other bracing herself against the bulkhead. Behind them, Helios shrank, its curved hull lit by warning strobes. Tiny patrol drones flitting like insects. Nathan opened the encrypted comm channel Krell had given him. "Pod 12 to Artemis. This is Nathan Parker. Requesting emergency docking. Authorization code Tango Echo 793. A long silence. Then, "Pod 12. This is Captain McGee of the Artemis. Authorization confirmed. We're tracking you. Be advised, we're under Dominion watch. We cannot break position. We'll come to you." Nathan throttled the pod forward. Its thrusters roared louder, the small craft shuddering under the strain. On the radar, 2 shapes loomed. The Artemis, sleek, civilian-grade, engines primed. And beside her, a darker shape. Angular, menacing. The Relentless. Nathan's stomach clenched. The Dominion warship had moved, repositioning to intercept. "They know," Lana said, her voice tight. "I know," Nathan replied. "But we're not stopping." The comm crackled again. A new voice. Cold, authoritative. "This is Commander Dravok of the Dominion Security Force. Maintenance Pod 12. You are ordered to power down and prepare for boarding." Nathan cut the channel. "Hell no." Lana's voice trembled with both awe and terror. "They'll fire." Nathan's eyes locked on the Artemis, now barely 2 kilometers away. "Only if they're fast enough." He pushed the thrusters to max. The pod jolted forward, shaking violently. The targeting alarm lit up as the Relentless locked them in. Then the comm lit up again, Captain McGee's voice this time, full of grit. "To hell with this." Artemis engaging evasive pattern. Covering. Pod 12. Let's give 'em hell. The stars exploded into motion as the Artemis opened fire. Nathan gritted his teeth, steering the pod into the chaos. Lana's hand found his wrist, her grip firm. "For Elu," she whispered. "For all of us." Nathan said. The docking bay of the Artemis loomed ahead. One chance. One shot. He took it. The pod slammed into the docking clamps with a jarring clang. The Artemis magnetic grips locking it in place, just as another blast from the Relentless scorched past their wake. The stars spun wildly behind them, and for one agonizing moment, Nathan thought they'd missed. But then the bay door sealed, atmospheric containment hissed into place, and gravity reasserted itself. They'd made it. Docking complete, came a voice over the internal speaker. Welcome aboard the Artemis. Prepare for rapid evac, captains. Orders. Nathan unstrapped himself, heart pounding, ears ringing from the pod's engine whine. Elu clung to Lana's waist, her wide gray eyes round with wonder and fear. Nathan helped them down from the pod, his boots thudding onto the metal bay floor dot as the hatch hissed open. Armed crew members in light combat armor rushed forward, guns lowered but ready. Their eyes swept over Nathan, then lingered on Lana. And Elu. One of them spoke into a shoulder comb. They're here. Escorting them to the bridge. Understood, came Captain Magee's clipped voice. Get them up here, now. Nathan took Lana's hand without hesitation. She gripped it tightly. Her skin was cold but steady. The corridors of the Artemis were narrow, utilitarian designed, more for smuggling cargo than combat. But today, it felt like a warship. Red lights pulsed along the bulkheads, and the ship shook intermittently with the impact of near misses. Somewhere behind them, the Relentless was turning. Still chasing Dot, they reached the bridge in under a minute. It was a storm of motion officers shouting updates, alarms beeping in warning tones, a helmsman pulling the Artemis through a complex, evasive pattern. And at the center of it all stood Captain Magee, gray-haired and lean, his gaze hard as asteroids. He turned as they entered. You Parker? Yes, sir. Magee's eyes flicked to Lana and Elu. They Dominion? No, sir. Turalian refugees. You brought Dominion fire onto my ship, son. Nathan stood tall. She has what the Dominion would kill to suppress. Her husband's. Research, stealth tech, shield modulation data, weaknesses in their military infrastructure. It's all on her. Magee's eyes narrowed. That true? Lana stepped forward. I can prove it. But we need access to your tactical systems. And someone who can interface with your AI. Magee didn't hesitate. Hayes, get her to the weapons console. Let's see if she can shoot back. A young officer gestured to Lana. Follow me. Lana kissed Elu's forehead, then turned to Nathan. Her voice was low. Stay with her. Please, I will. As Lana moved across the bridge, Elu slipped her small hand into Nathan's. Is she going to fight them? She's going to outsmart them, Nathan said. Moments passed like years. The bridge rocked violently as the Relentless closed in. Then Lana called out, Captain! Their shield modulator is exposed coordinate 304 Mark 17. If we fire there now, I can force a feedback loop. Magee didn't ask twice. Fire all forward batteries. The Artemis lit up the stars. A salvo of torpedoes streaked across the void, striking the precise point Lana had called out. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the Relentless's shields flickered and collapsed. Explosions rippled down its spine. Its engines died in a cascade of blue flame. Cheers erupted on the bridge. They're dead in space. Hayes shouted. Weapons offline. Engines crippled. Magee grinned. We just spiked a Dominion warship on a goddamn freighter. He turned to Nathan. You weren't kidding. That woman just saved our lives. Nathan looked down at Elu, who stared out the viewport in awe. She saved more than that. Magee turned back to the helm. Set course for Earth-controlled space. Maximum burn. Let's take this family home. The next few hours passed in a blur of adrenaline and relief. Nathan stayed with Lana and Elu as the Artemis rendezvoused with 3 Earth defense. 4 ships on the edge of safe territory. The intrepid, Orion, and Resolute flanked the freighter like guardian angels, their sleek forms cutting through the void with silent power. On board Earth Station Alpha, everything changed. Lana and Elu were granted full refugees status. The Terralian government in exile, long fragmented and scattered, suddenly had the leverage it needed. Earth issued formal recognition, military cooperation agreements. The data Nathan smuggled off Helios became the cornerstone of Earth's defensive doctrine. And Nathan? He wasn't court-martial. He was commended, a security officer who defied protocol to protect 2 fugitives, and brought home the most important tech breakthrough in the war against the Dominion. He was hailed as a hero, but none of that mattered to him as much as the moment Elu called him bad for the first time. 1 month later, Nathan stood on the observation deck of Earth Station Alpha, staring down at the blue-green swirl of Earth below. "Beautiful, isn't it?" came Lana's voice behind him. He turned. She stood in a simple Earth-style dress, her silver hair tied back, her luminescent skin glowing softly under the viewport lights. "Almost as beautiful as you," he said. She smiled, crossing the deck to him. Flatterer. He took her hand. Their bond, once faint, was now unmistakable. He could feel her emotions: peace, hope, love. And she could feel his. "Elu wants to see the oceans," Lana said. "She wants to touch the waves." "She will," Nathan promised. "We've got a house waiting in the Pacific Northwest, quiet, green, close to the sea." Lana leaned against him, eyes distant. "We've come so far, lost so much, but we found something too," Nathan said. "We found each other." Behind them, Elu bounded and holding a datapad full of pictures. "Can we see elephants too? And dolphins? And volcanoes?" Nathan laughed. "One step at a time, kiddo." She looked between them, her expression serious. "This is our forever home, right?" Nathan looked into Lana's eyes. "Yes," he said, "it is." And as they stood there, human, alien, and child, watching the Earth turn below, Nathan knew that he hadn't just saved a family. He'd found one, and no matter what the galaxy threw at them next, they'd face it the same way they had escaped Helios. Together. The end.